to go to work.
Hi guys, Karl here, and this is my Teamfight Tactics Set 3 video on how to play 6 Cybernetics in the current patch 10.6 meta. First of all, let me thank all of you for the recent support on the channel. All the positivity is really energizing and motivating, and we are very close to hit our 100 sub goal. I have a little special something prepared for that, so please remember to like the video if it helped you, subscribe to my channel, and follow me on Twitch as I stream most of my games there. In the upcoming video I will provide you with the most important facts around how to play this composition from level 1 to level 9. This should help you to effectively rank up and get better game by game. And with that, let's just jump right into it. So I have been asked multiple times now how exactly I play Cybernetics, because Cybernetics is something you see a lot on my channel. It's my main build for this patch of Teamfight Tactics. And I think I have a pretty good grip on it. I played it tons on PvE and I play it a lot at the moment on Plat, and currently are ranking up with it to challenge, to first of all Diamond and then Challenger. And I wanted to share how ideally it would look when you want to play this build, how ideally you would play it. Of course, any game in TFT is random. That is what makes it special. But at the same time, you kind of want to have an idea on what ideally you would want to play in certain situations, because sometimes you have the opportunity to play it, but then you're not sure what to play now. So I want to make sure that you understand these are the best things you could play in Cybernetics, and if you play this throughout the game, you should pretty much have a guaranteed top 2 on your hands. So let's jump in directly after the first 3 minion waves. If you have hit the 3 Cybernetics, perfect, you want to play them. The most important thing though is the red buff. Red buff is the most important and central aspect of the Cybernetic build. If you hit a red buff early, you might even want to consider going Cybernetics, although you don't have any units for it. Because red buff gives you the heal debuff on all enemies, and you need that with Cybernetics since they all do a bit more damage over time and are not that bursty. So you really need to have that heal debuff. And you want to build it on the Lucian because with the blaster buff, he spreads it quite well across all enemies. And especially in early game, the damage of red buff will carry you. It will carry you through the early game. So you would want to play this plus the Graves for the blaster. Sometimes you might want to consider to put in the early space pirates, the Darius for example, instead of one of the Cybernetics, so you drop the Cybernetic buff. But please only do that if you scout all your enemies and you see you're strong enough, because you want to guarantee the winning streak at the start. If you can't pick up enough of these units, you want to ride out the losing streak until you can, basically. So until Crux, if you can't hit this comp, or if you don't have a red buff, mostly you would want to lose streak because you're not strong enough. So then basically you transition to 3, you skill up to 4 if you have hit the red buff, to just put in a 4th unit, to just put in the blasters, and to win streak. So let's say we just win streaked a lot. We had this comp, this ideal comp at the start. We win streaked a lot. We had the red buff from the start. If you didn't have the red buff, you want to pick up the red buff at latest at the circle. Then we transition to this. So this is basically when you level up to 5, what you would like ideally to have. So before we had 4, level 4, now we hit 5. So I put out the Graves because Ezreal is the unit you want to play for the rest of the game in this build. Ezreal is one of the units that you want to keep. And now you want to also add in a Blitzcrank, because Blitzcrank gives you Chrono together with Ezreal. Additionally, what you could also play instead of the Blitzcrank is a Shen. And let me quickly search for him. So Shen. You could also play that instead of a Blitzcrank, also very good. You also want to start building more items on the other units. So the Locket is also something that's very good on Cybernetics. It gives a buff to the entire front line, and is something I usually build on the Leona. So Locket also a very central item in Cybernetics. For now we can leave the tier on the Fiora. What also could be is you don't hit the Ezreal. So then the best thing would be to activate the Space Pirates and the Vanguard with the Jace. So then you would want to play Graves and Jace until you hit the Ezreal, and you can put in Chrono and Blaster together with the Ezreal. So this would also be very good and could also accumulate quite some gold. So these are 2 of the level 5 comps where I think if you hit them, you're pretty good. And then after Crux, at some point you want to go 6, and then you want to roll. So what happens when you go 6 is you either find a Vi. Then you want to play the Vi, put a staff ideally on her, so she gets the Cybernetic buff. And the Blitzcrank gives her the Brawler buff. So then your front line would be very, very strong. So you would have a longer fight. And the Lucian still would be your carry with the red buff. What could also happen if you get very lucky, and I like it a lot, is you hit the Aurelia. So Aurelia is the champ that you want to stack items on in the late game. So ideal items on Aurelia are Bloodthirst and an Infinity Edge. If you can build items from one of those on Aurelia, do it. You want to keep items on Aurelia. What I just won't recommend is what many guides out there recommend, is that you hold back on your other units. So many guides out there will recommend from the start that you don't build too much items on the other champs. So instead you want to start looking for items for Aurelia. And while I agree, if you get a sword, don't build the sword on any other unit, keep it for Aurelia. At the same time, if you get other items, start building them on other units, because else you sacrifice some of your early game, and these HP that you miss out in the early game will later on hit you hard in the late game. So yes, if you get the Vi, you want to have the Blitzcrank in here for the Brawler buff. You have the Chrono buff with Ezreal. And this is really ideal at level 6. If you hit the Aurelia, you want to have the Shen. You want to play the Blade Master. So with Shen and Aurelia, you have the Blade Master buff. And Aurelia will not immediately carry you. If she gets these items, sure, she will do a lot of damage. But at level 1, she's still a bit weak. So once you hit level 2 Aurelia, that's your main carry until late game, where you want to have the 6 cybernetics to keep on winning. But if you hit the Aurelia 2, you're golden. Keep also in mind something that at this point in game is important. So when you hit level 6 after Crux, so stage 3-2, you want to hit level 6 and put in either this combo or this combo. If you hit either one of those two, that's pretty strong and you can keep on win streaking. Keep in mind you don't want to roll too much gold. So it is really of utmost important with this build that you have a strong economy and go to 8 very early, because you need the echo in the late game to give you the strength to not lose too much HP. So you have to win a lot and maintain a lot of economy throughout the early and mid game to be strong in the late game. So I would even recommend don't roll under 30 gold at stage 3-2. Just go to 6, roll down to 30 gold if you don't have any of these comps. If you already have them, don't roll at all. You should be good with, if you have any of these comps, you should be good to win. So that is level 6. If we go over to level 7, this is where you want to just add in the last 5th cybernetic apart from Echo. So you don't want to add in any of the other buffs because it just costs you money. At this point, you want to not spend any money at all, keep a lot of money, and just start accumulating to hit the Echo as fast as possible. So this is probably the weakest point in the whole game for cybernetic comps. It's this time span before hitting the Echo. So this is because I say just put in the cybernetic, because you want to quickly go to the stage where you can hit Echo and you are in, again, a very strong position. And you want to start completing items. So on Fiora, for example, Static Shift is not a good item in itself, but there are not many other things you can also do with a bow. So bow plus tier Static Shift is okay item for Fiora. If you have a bow lying around, I guess just do it. And Ionic Spark is very good on Vi, so I would build the Ionic Spark on Vi. Just also because it hits Vi ult hits harder for the carries of the enemy team. So this would be level 7. You're saving up money and start to prepare for the big roll down for Echo. And now it gets important. We go to 8. Ideally you would have the Echo now. So now this is something I want to stress. It depends now how much HP you have. If you still have over 30 HP when you hit level 8 and you still feel kind of strong, don't roll down at 8. The best chance to hit an Echo is at 9. So ideally, you would want to go with this comp at 9. So as long as you are not at this 30 HP threshold where it gets kind of dangerous, you want to trade HP for economy. So you want to either win or lose, but you want to build up economy so you can hit 9 and roll down at 9 for Echo. If you can't do that, or maybe you get lucky at 8 and you can already add in the Echo. All in all, if you hit the Echo, you have 6 cybernetics going, you have 3 Blade Masters, 2 Chrono, 2 Blaster. This comp is super strong until the very late game. In the very late game, it falls off again. This is where all the Rebel comps at the moment are completely exploding. But until then, this comp is very strong, and again can secure you a quick win streak that could accumulate gold for you to go to 9. And now this is where, if you want to win the game or have a very strong chance at winning the game, this is where you need the level 9 and you need gold at level 9, because at 9 you then do the roll down. Ideally you would do a roll down of like 40 gold or something like that, because if you want to go first, what you need is the Echo onto and you need the Lulu onto. If you have both units on level 2 and all the other units of course on level 2, you should be looking at a first place. There might be somebody stronger. Then you need the Aurelia 3 or better items on your Echo and Lulu. But in general, if you hit these 2 on 2, you have a pretty good chance at going for the first place. You want to add in the Lulu. You might ask, all right, but Lulu is not giving me any additional buffs. That's true. I just think Lulu is so strong. Her ult can really delay a fight a lot. And if you have the Shojins, for sure. What you can also do is play any of the other good 5-cost champs at the moment. I wouldn't recommend Misfortune. That's another thing I want to get out there. 1 second. So maybe let's keep this in mind. I'll just quickly put her here. So Thresh would also be okay, but when you play the Thresh, you also want to have a Lulu on your bench, because your play is then the Thresh ults, he pulls in the Lulu, and Lulu ults, and then it's basically the same as if you would have a Lulu. And what you also can play at the moment, Gangplank is super OP. He will be fixed soon, but at the moment he's so broken that you can, if you 2-star him, just put him in instead of Lulu. He probably will also carry you pretty hard. All right, the last thing. So this is the ideal comp looks like this. In the end game, you want to have this. You get there by playing a very strong game from the start to the finish, build up a strong economy, transition very nicely, and then you have enough gold in the late game to roll for the Lulu 2 and the Echo 2. Let me say, this one guide will not make you an excellent player. It takes so much practice to perfect your cybernetic game, so much experience. You really have to understand when you are a bit too weak to win, when you have to roll a bit to hit a specific comp or a champ. So this is also a lot about practice. So this guide will help you, I think, a big deal, but still you still kind of have to play it a lot to get the hang of it. The last thing I wanted to say is regarding Valkyries, and I think this is something that many people misplay at the moment, in my opinion. So many people start playing Valkyries in the late game. So what they instead do is add in the Misfortune, and they add in, let me quickly search for it, the Kale for the Valkyries. 1 second. This. So you basically lose, and you want to still keep your blasters. So you have your blasters with a Misfortune. So you could play this at 8 if you don't hit 9, and then at 9 again you could pull in a Lulu or something like that. But the big thing why I would warn you, strongly advise against this, is Misfortune's ult gets disrupted by Echo's ult. And what keeps happening in certain fights is the timing is so bad that Misfortune just starts to ult, Echo ults, and your Misfortune is completely useless. It basically is less useless than an Ezreal that would ult and give the mana debuff to the entire team. So when you see a guide out there, please keep that in mind. In my opinion, it's just not worth. Yes, you have the Kale in there, but also in my opinion, this build now gets too squishy. You're missing a unit in the front line, like a Shen, that could hold up the damage a bit more, and a Lulu that would hold up the damage a bit more, and you could burst it more easily. So my strong recommendation is play the safer variant of this build, the better variant in my opinion, and play this one here. If you have more questions regarding this, or just would like to discuss my point of view, because I know there are some players out there that still think the Valkyrie build is the better build here, I'm happy to discuss these at any time. Come into my stream, twitch.tv/Karl, thisKarl. And yeah, so I think I wanted to give you some of these tips on the way, because I personally think, without sounding too confident, that I'm a very good cybernetic player. And I play a bit different than many of the others that just save items up for Aurelia and play the Aurelia and the Valkyries, because I think this is the better variant of the build. So thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please leave a like, leave a subscribe, and then talk soon.